Three, two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Delusions of Grandeur. I am your host, but today we are going really super fast here, as we are going to be talking about a film that was filmed in 2001 by none other than Rob Cohen, who also directed the first Dragonheart, which on our other channel, Delusions of Inside Movies Galore, we discussed. Let me just say what IMDb says about the film, and then we'll go into our first impressions here. So, Los Angeles police officer Brian O'Connor must decide where his loyalty really lies when he becomes enamored with the street racing world he has been sent undercover to destroy. So,
Not
let
really
me just
correct.
say that Vin Diesel, Paul Walker, and Michelle Rodriguez star in this film. This is also written by Ken Lee, Gary Scott Thomas, doing the screen story, and then Eric Berquist behind the screenplay. So, first impressions. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna start bottom and go with you, Mo. Was this a first time watch for you?
No, I'd seen this movie back when it was new. I don't remember if I saw it in the theater or not. This was definitely the first time I'd seen it since probably then, maybe I've watched it once or twice before I watched Fast and the Furious 2 when that came out. And then that's as far as I made it into the franchise. They're just not really my kind of movies, man. I don't know. I tend to prefer the car movies of like the 70s. Just something about the cars, I guess. Even though I'm not really into cars, like they're a little more interesting and they tend to have sleazier plot lines. And just there's more of the types of movies that I like in those old school car movies than there is in something like this.
I'm just the opposite with that one.
There you go. That being said, though, Michelle Rodriguez is pretty hot, so that's that held me through a lot of it during this. Vin Diesel,
the sister.
Vin Diesel is always a treat. I think I definitely am always going to be a fan of that guy between, I guess, probably this and like Pitch Black and Triple X and Iron Giant. So he's been involved in quite a few movies that I do enjoy, and I do enjoy this film. It's just it's not one I'd be rushing out to put on. That being said, I think I am going to be taking this through and marathoning the rest of the series just so I can understand what the hell my brother's talking about, because he loves it and he's always trying to hold these conversations with me about it, and I just got to kind of smile and nod through it because I haven't seen the movies. And he doesn't seem to understand that means I'm going to have no opinion on any of the stuff in there. He's like, oh, this car in Fast and the Furious part fucking 12 or something? And it's like, no, I don't, but you seem enthusiastic about it, so keep talking.
Yeah, HBO Max has the ninth movie too. So I was planning on doing the same thing and then watching the ninth because I hadn't seen that one yet.
Going over to KJ, was this a first time watch for you?
No, hardly. This movie here is one of my favorite films. Something that I've had on probably every physical platform, from VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, now 4K. So it definitely is a film that I don't mind spending money on. I saw the movie because of my mom. It wasn't because of the fact that I could go to the theater. I was young when the movie came out, so she had this movie, and she had a movie that was similar, Gone in 60 Seconds. But when I got to pick between the two of them, I liked this one more than the one with Nicolas Cage. Now, I've seen the one that came out later in the 70s, or earlier in the 70s, and I like that one. But, when I saw this movie, it just kind of had everything. You had the good-looking girls, you had the cars, you had two guys that are very likable as characters. I don't know. It was just a movie that I don't know how to say it. It's just something that really stuck with me. And I've seen all of the sequels, and I don't care for them. I think that this movie, to me personally, is better as a film than the following sequels. But I don't think you'll ever see anything like this again because that was a special time in Los Angeles. That car scene. That we get to see. It was a special time. So, yes, this is a favorite of mine.
Okay. Going over to Tammy. Was this the first time watch for you?
Yes, actually, it was because I, like Mo, prefer the older cars. And I was not actually interested in this at all because I thought it was just a bunch of racing around with all these newer cars that go me instead of,
Instead of
American Muscle, as
right,
what
which is
they talk
hey, Vin
about.
Diesel had American muscle cars, so
right. That was one of the lines that I liked the best about, you'll never beat American muscle with imports. And I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I mean, when KG said something about it's gone in 60 seconds, at the time, if somebody, before I saw either one of them, I probably would have picked the Gone in 60 Seconds first just because I knew it had old cars in it.
The last 60 Seconds was an awesome film. It's hard to put the two together. That they're really different
Yeah,
movies.
they are really different, but
They
there's a
both
lot
have
of
they're both cars and shit.
older
But,
cars in it,
They're definitely different though.
But I did enjoy it. I honestly thought that I didn't really know at the time that there was actually a storyline and a plot and everything to it. I thought from the trailers and stuff you saw that it was just a bunch of these cars racing around, and then that was about it.
Oh,
so that's why I
thought it was kind of like like going to NASCAR.
not NASCAR. No, NASCAR's boring. But I'm sorry, NASCAR. Okay, let's just watch them go around in a circle for how many times? No, I like the one-on-one racing. Show me what you got. That's racing.
Like Bubba J from Jeff Dunham and Peanut. They're going around another turn. They're going around another turn.
Yeah, a friend of mine said he was watching NASCAR, and I said, "Does your head hurt from watching it going around and around and around and around?"
But I did enjoy it, and we ended up watching the whole franchise over the last 2 days. So it was interesting. Like I said, I had a totally different opinion of it before I saw it than I do now. So
you're welcome.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this was actually Krol's pick. So why don't we ask Krol? Was this a first time watch for you?
Definitely not. No. I did not see it in the theaters. I think I saw it maybe close to the time it came out. I'm not exactly sure. I know I just I happened to catch it. I didn't really go to the theater much at that time. I was too busy working, so I was just always busy working. But I did catch the movie early, and I have seen it a couple times. I do enjoy the sequels as well. I can't remember which one it is, but the one where they're like, they got a tank. Like, that is just fucking awesome. It was just fucking awesome with the fucking tank going down there and shit. Like, each movie, they up the car chases and scenes and shit. And I really enjoy that. Like, I don't know. I like car chases. I really do. I'm really a fan of car chases. Not a huge fan of cars, but if I'm going to see cars, I like to see either some kind of big monstrosity type thing or fucking like flashy fucking brand new cars. I mean, now Vin Diesel's old car is fucking pretty awesome, but he took that shit out. So that was cool. I like older cars if they're tricked out like that, or like the one in Supernatural. Like, that car is iconic too. But for the most part, the fancy looking cars is the ones I like more.
well, Vin Diesel's car was a Charger.
Yeah, I know.
And Supernatural was an Impala.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, like, they're both older cars and they're both American and stuff, and I just want to point out they're both black, which is the best color for car. So it was pretty badass. I actually had forgotten that he destroys the car at the end like that and shit. I hadn't seen it in a while, so I was like, oh damn, that car got fucked.
I hate that. I hate that part of the movie. Like that.
Yeah,
That was
it's
so
like,
over the
damn,
top. And
that
flipping
guy-
over 18-wheeler. I do hate that
sad,
part.
man. Like
I hated
it
that
was
part
like
of the
losing
movie
a-
too.
It was like losing a team member. Like, what the fuck,
The best part of the movie and the worst part of the movie all happened in about 5 minutes.
Right?
The
Seriously.
best part of the movie is when the Charger came out to play, and then the Charger died.
Right? Right? I mean, it's like, oh yeah, he's bringing the Charger. Now we're gonna kick some ass. Oh shit, the fucking Charger blew the fuck up.
Spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen.
They should have just brought it back to life. They should have just brought it back to life in a later movie, like Reggie does with the Barracuda or whatever in Phantasm. Like
Well, it does
gets
come
blown
back,
up.
but yeah.
It does
Oh,
come
it does.
back.
They do bring it back to
Yeah,
life.
but it's not the
It's-
same black color in like some
Yeah.
of the later
Yeah,
sequels.
It's just
There's
a different
Charger in
version
every
of the
single
same car.
movie. At least
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Every
But
time the Charger gets destroyed, somehow there's another Charger.
Yeah.
Right?
It just dawned on me how funny the whole American muscle thing is, because Vin Diesel basically is just a big muscle.
It's funny that every time a Charger gets destroyed, a demon gets his wings. All right, so that was my impression. Who's next?
I think we got Boris here. Boris, was this a first time watch for you?
Yes and no. I have stumbled upon this movie on TV multiple times, and I've seen parts of it here and there, but this is the first time I've actually sat down and watched the whole movie because, as some people have already said, it's not the genre I usually go for when I pick a movie for myself. But
You're welcome.
yeah. Uh, yeah, so today was the first time I watched it. I watched it from the beginning to the end, and well, it was okay. It had some good moments, but yeah, like Tammy said, it's a lot of car chases and so on, with maybe not so much of a plot line going on, but I do see why it's a classic, why many other people would enjoy it as much as they do. So it's just not the kind of movie I would usually go for myself, but it's still good.
I was wondering how relatable it would be to Boris, because don't you guys like just drive all those little shoebox cars over there and shit? Like, do you actually have cars like this over in Croatia?
Well,
Boris?
he is
I'm-
driving. He himself is driving a Mercedes Benz.
Oh, there you go. Maybe
yeah,
I'm just have
yes.
some improper impression of like car life and the continent. You know?
Yeah, I do have a Mercedes, although it's a fairly old model. When I got it, it was a second-hand car. At that time, it was 12 years old. Now it's maybe, I'm not sure which year it was when I got it.
Well, now it's
uh,
probably considered a classic, because they do say that any car that's 20 years old is considered a classic car.
I think that ends
Well,
when
I
you
think
get into
it's,
like the lame minivan era that we're in now. Because I've had some cars that were 20 years old, but I don't know if anybody would consider them
I-
classic. You know,
I
Right.
think my car is not quite 20 years old yet, but I don't know, maybe 16, 17, something like that.
Yeah, we'll go to some of the car shows. People believe that their car is a classic because it's over 20 years old and they got classic plates on it and show up with it. And yes, I have seen minivans at them. It's like,
Oh,
really,
yeah.
people?
I'm gonna come there with like a tricked out Ford Freestar with a badass speaker system in it.
Yeah. You believe me, at the car shows, yes, you'll see plenty of awesome looking cars. Then you'll also see plenty of what the hell is that?
Or wannabe vehicles that want to be classic.
Right.
Can you imagine if you showed up to one of these street races in like a Dr. Seuss mobile with a bunch of horns on it and stuff?
Hey, I
I
get a
don't even
kick.
want your pink slip, dude.
I get a kick out of the ones that show up with the mystery machine. So.
But what about that guy that I took all those pictures of? He's like a vet,
Mhm.
and he had all kinds of war stuff. It's like a truck, and he's got all kinds of war stuff, and it's all like a metallic, like paint to it, and there's just stuff everywhere on it. It looks really neat. It does, but it's like wow.
Well, in any case, I think at the time that this came out, I didn't go see it in the theaters. I think I ended up seeing it on VHS the first time with a friend, and then it wasn't until years later that my sister ended up picking up like the first 5 from a remnant sale for me, and then I just ended up collecting like the rest of them when they came out. But I no cars. They're not my strong suit. I have gotten into a lot of more classical cars because of living with Tammy. But I this wasn't my typical movie to go see, but I feel like Vin Diesel as an actor is like was like the next actor after Telly Savalas, to be that center Colombian actor that was center point for at least his culture, So,
So he's not American? I always thought he was just American.
no, he's Colombian.
I thought it
Oh,
was
right on.
Just like
He's mixed
Pitbull.
or something. Yeah, he's mixed. Or
He's
something.
fucking awesome though. I fucking love
Yeah,
him.
he is, man.
Yeah, he is, but he's always had that low voice. I remember him in Riddick,
Yep.
more for Riddick, but
Yeah, he'll always be Riddick to me.
Pitch Black, yeah.
But he really did pull out the character of the street gangster in these films, specifically this one because you get to see him somewhat in all his glory. But let's begin with how this plot begins. I believe it begins with a sandwich, a tuna sandwich.
That nobody likes.
Can we admit one thing though about this movie? And I do love this movie, but can we admit one thing? This movie is a ripoff of Point Break, which is a better movie.
I would agree.
Point Break is a better film. I
Yeah,
love
it
Swayze,
is.
I love Reeves. It's a ripoff of that movie.
Practically beat for beat Point Break, but we don't get any surfing, which
That's
is
the
a
only
bummer.
difference.
Oh, I
Right,
love
they
Point
did-
Break, the original one.
So the plots are very similar, these two movies.
Oh yeah, because in here there is a group of people who get off on heisting shit, stealing like big like shit that is carried on trucks, and it doesn't matter what it is. It was just, and I think it's a movie of its time because there were some things in here that are kind of dated a little bit.
Don't they steal TV VCR combos?
Yeah,
Yeah. They were a big deal back then. So
They were.
I think it was
They still are
Panasonic,
if you're into
too.
retro media. I mean, I got one. It's nice.
Hey,
Why, that's
that
surprising.
used to be my TV for a while. The VHS TV combo,
Oh yeah, I'm sure we probably watched this on one of those that they stole at some point. I don't know.
Well, you had that DVD one that was the same thing. It was a DVD combo, and that thing actually played all DVDs. Remember?
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't supposed to play in the U.S., it played on that.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
That was my go-to player for a time until I went straight like computer and PS3, PS4.
Those things are expensive, if I remember. Those things are expensive.
Yeah, they were. But In any case, so we have Paul Walker, who plays Brian, and he is. We don't really know that he's an undercover detective at first.
Well, he's not a detective yet.
Well, no, he's not. He's in training or something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
guess he was a detective, and something must have happened because they mention it later in the film that if he wants to be a detective again, then he needs to crack this case.
And later, it's actually said that that he actually did when he was younger, like boost some cars. So
well, that was his persona. We don't know if it was actually that was true or not. I think it was, but it was his persona because the names he is Brian, but the last name was different. They used his name, the name he used in his real name, but of course they planted a fake stuff to make him seem more like one of them. But I think it might have been true. Like he definitely knows his way around cars more than the average cop would. So there's definitely some kind of history there.
Well, yeah, his real name was Brian O'Connor, but that's not what they used. It was, I don't remember the other last name.
Yeah, Brian something.
Which is funny.
Whatever it was, it sounded white.
Which is funny. O'Connor is also the same last name as the in the Terminator, if I remember correctly. O'Connor.
Yes, O'Connor.
There's no O. It's a Sarah Connor.
I just thought that it was O'Connor in the Terminator, but I guess not.
Close enough.
But in any case,
he looks like he could be the kid of Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese, I suppose.
He really
maybe
does. He really does.
He goes and eats at a body shop cafe, kind of. It's kind of like a cafe / body shop, I think. It like an all-in-one kind of thing, and that's where we meet Jordana Brewster as Maya. What did we think about Maya as a character?
All I'm gonna say is I don't know one boy in my age range that did not have wet dreams about this chick.
Yeah,
no one. He was gorgeous girl.
Like the other girl is she's good looking, but I think this one is a little way hotter. Way hotter.
I think Michelle Rodriguez has an acquired taste, but she's good looking too.
Yeah, she is. Like I said, but I just
I like a chick that looks like she could kick my ass. So that's like Vasquez from Aliens probably started it when I was a kid, and then just carried over into other girls like that.
Nia is kind of like that girl next door.
She's like that
girl next door that's like a model.
Well, in any case, while he is flirting with Maya, we see Vin Diesel in the background in this caged area where I guess they begin to notice that that Brian has actually been frequenting this cafe quite
every day,
quite often every day, and they all know that the sandwich is shit,
right?
So there is one amongst Vin Diesel's crew that has the hots for Maya that ends up being very untrustworthy and going head to head with him several times throughout the film. What do we think about that particular character?
Well, you need to also mention that Maya is Vin Diesel's character's sister.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
and
that's why everybody is as protective as they are.
She's not that guy. Like he's into her. She's not into him. Like he's asked her out, and she's like no. And she even says a line where she's like she don't date, her brother's friends, her brother's crew, which is why later, Paul Walker's character says, then I'll pick his ass, like. And she's like, I'd like to see that. I'd pay to see that. Like, pretty funny.
What I say about Vince as a character is Vince is somebody that you can love and hate as a person, because as a friend, they're going to be, for the most part, loyal, have your back. But on the other side of things, they're an annoying son of a bitch, and I can see that from Paul's point of view because of how the guy was just always kind of needling him. But it makes sense because he didn't trust him. So
No, he was right. He kept saying he's a cop.
yeah, he was.
He was right. He called that shit.
And I'm not gonna lie. If it wasn't a movie, I really do think in that moment when they caught him like looking at that shop where Tran and them had his car stored and they caught him doing that. I really do think that someone like Vin Diesel's character, Dom, they would have listened to Vince in a moment like that because it was just too much there. There was just too much there.
Right.
To point to him being a cop. But
right, like his story was loose. It was very loose. It wasn't. It was a plot. The reason it worked is because the plot said it would.
Right. Right. But Vince is a good friend. That's why I'm just kind of highlighting is just Vince is a good friend. He's a good person to have.
Yeah.
And I guess the first instant that we get with Paul Walker showing up in their vicinity of things is he shows up at a street race, to race against.
Hey
Vin
man, you forgot about like one of the best lines, dude.
Diesel.
When they're fighting outside, and he's like, "Dom, do something." And he looks back and looks at them. He's like, "What? Damn! What are you even putting in those sandwiches?" He's like, "Very funny. Go do something."
Hey man, he was in my face, man. I'm in your face.
You're embarrassing me. Back up.
You embarrass me.
I don't want you to come here anymore. Did you start working for Harry? Well, you're fired. I'm like, damn.
Well, and when he gets back to Harry's, which is apparently the undercover place that he's working for and getting parts for, because he ends up going back to him to get another what they call 10-second car.
No, nitrous oxide. Now he tells Harry, I need more Nas. I need more Nas, man. But yeah, nitrous oxide. Those are easy.
It's important to point out too how much these movies popularized that shit. Like Nas was like a thing for a minute there after this came out. And then we eventually got a whole energy drink based around it, which I buy frequently.
I think several films from this franchise like popularized several things.
It wasn't really a thing, and then it starts showing up in video games. I mean, I'm sure it was a thing for car people, but it made it like a recognizable name brand for people.
I would say Nas and chrome wheels, and I would also say floor lights.
Random decals.
Also drifting. Drifting became a thing like after these films.
It was definitely all that shit probably like definitely existed within the car community, but it wasn't like known to random high school kids, until this stuff and shit like, Need for Speed Underground and whatnot like popularized it hardcore.
Well, the Nas was popular like we have a dragway not that far from here, down at the drag strip. Yeah, it was popular with the older American cars,
Right.
And down at the drag strip, it was popular. The wheels were somewhat popular with that stuff, but that those cars in that day and age, people were more about the power and they were more into having the NOS and having the power than they were with having all the other fancy crap with the lights and the wheels and this and that. They wanted the car to get up and go is what they wanted.
But you have to remember too, the hip hop rock kind of fusion scene was coming together at this time. It's that was such a small scene in 1999, moving into 2001, it's interesting to see because like you said, most Americans prior to this, I don't think that they would find this as attractive, the cars and what they were doing to the cars, customizations and everything. They're more into, I got a restored 1968 Mustang, and come check this out. They were more into that, at least seemingly so. That's what it seems like.
No, I'm an exception to the rule.
Right.
Well, yeah, this was a whole new scene, like you said, KJ. Yeah. It was like at that time it was the young crowd. This was their scene.
Yeah.
the music and the cars and everything. This was their scene where like people maybe my age, our
Right.
scene was all cars like the Charger. That
Right.
was our scene. You
Right.
know.
And
Right.
Rob Cohen said he saw, an article about this in like Variety or something in 1999 when they were trying to figure out a movie. He said, just reading the article, he was like, this interested him because he didn't know anything about these kind of cars or this kind of scene. And a major thing, let me point this out. A major thing is the Japanese influence.
Yes.
The Asian influence coming over to America, especially particularly in California, for all these cars. It was huge.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and I think that
you-
this franchise kind of captured some of that, especially when it went over to Tokyo
Right.
and involves so many Asian actors to begin with.
Yeah, you can't
So-
understate the initial D influence on this as well. That animated series was a huge deal especially for like the drift community over there, I guess, because it's all modeled after like actual drift legends and shit that existed, and they were more about the drifting for sure, which makes sense with the whole Tokyo Drift thing. But I'm sure a lot of them doing it too here in the States was kind of like doing what young kids do and rebelling against what their parents did or whatever. So instead of the old muscle cars, they were getting these importers and strapping rocket fuel into them or whatever and just getting crazy.
Right.
Well, and there are a lot of things going on in this film, believe it or not. You've got the crew that is boosting these items. You've got them gathering up their vehicles so that they can go and race at like some of these bigger races. In fact, one of the races which is influential throughout the series is Race Wars, which according to Toretto, they created it, back in the day, so, or at least they started it all. But we have this first race where we have Toretto and O'Connor racing against each other, and he's got this green import car, I think, right?
Mitsubishi Eclipse.
$80,000 car.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. Does he have the Nas in it? Yeah, he does. I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he does.
And so he races against him, and he's got what car does he have, Tammy?
I'm not sure because it wasn't the Charger.
He had a Dodge Viper, I think. I think he had a no. He didn't have a Dodge Viper. He had a Mazda. I forgot what model it was, but he had a Mazda Toretto.
I really don't know these. I don't know these newer cars.
You don't know the fancy cars.
Yeah, you can line them all up, and I'll go, huh?
I don't know either. They just look cool.
But you can line up. You can line up a Chevelle and an Impala, and I'll go, yep, that's that.
I'll be honest. When I think of fancy, I think of American muscle cars. When these import, okay, you probably never created like the small like. I had some model sets where you could actually create like Hot Wheels like cars with
the die-cast sets.
Yeah, the die-cast sets.
Those were rad.
Those were rad, but to me, that's just all like plastic and nothing underneath, So, some of them looked cool, but I don't know, anything that would make you stand out, like the color red or lime green, like the color of puke. I don't know. O'Connor had the color of his car looked like the smiley face on the poison bottles. So to me,
That's
it's like
quite
he's
a
driving.
comparison.
He's driving something that somebody puked out, and he's driving it. So, but
Come on.
I like this car, but
in any case, he does not win, and he does not win by a long shot because Toretto cheated and he bumped his car at the end. And
he didn't cheat because they were all doing it.
Yeah, the thing about it was Paul Walker didn't really know how to drive, quote unquote, at least a race.
Yeah, he didn't. He's like, I almost
at
had
least
you.
not
Like,
yet.
Almost had you.
Right.
You were doing this and this and this and this when you should have been doing that and that. And he was just like,
well,
nah,
I
you know what
noticed.
I mean.
I noticed in races, it's always about like exactly when to use the NOS. And when the right person was racing, the one that you knew would win, you'd see the fuckers get all excited and they push that NOS and they're like, oh, too soon.
Yeah, like with the kid did it when he was racing the Chinese dude. He's like, and then he's like, too soon, Junior, and then he put his in and he just fucking blew past him.
Oh, I forgot to mention the fact that there's this random Spanish gangster guy. I forget his name. Hector. Yeah, he shows up randomly in many movies that I've seen. I remember him showing up in Bruce Almighty, having the monkey come out of his butt.
Yeah. He's a good actor. He's a good actor. Yeah. I like him. Yeah. He's the one that said. He said when Brian said his name, he's like, "Yep, sounds like a white boy name."
Well, he's also one where when Michelle Rodriguez's character is remembering who she is, she like punches his ass out, and he's like, "Yo, what you punch me for?" And then Toretto's like, "Well, I guess you can't handle your punches." But in any case,
yeah, that dude's in a ton of stuff, isn't he? Also in Breaking Bad, I feel like he shows up.
Yeah, he does at one point.
Training Day. Yeah.
Hey, have you ever had your shit pushed in?
We gotta do that movie one of these days, dude.
What movie?
Training Day. It's been a while since I've seen that one. But he loses the race, and that's about when the cops show up, and everyone has to like race off to wherever. Now Toretto, he ends up like outside of his car walking, and O'Connor just shows up with his car, and I guess everyone else, even his crew, had already left the area, and he picks his ass up and takes his ass home.
No.
Before he does that, they end up going to Tran's place.
They had the whole police chase too. Police chase car race, and he fucking just flies around corners and shit, and fucking the cop car just gets slammed by another car trying to do the same thing.
Well, he ditched his car where he hit his car and was walking on the street, and the cops still were trying to get him.
Yeah, they're like, "Toretto, stay there," and that's when
Brian, O'Connor pulled up and said, "Get in," they took off.
Yep.
Which leads to them going to Tran's territory when Tran does.
Yeah. That's when they were going into the territory. It's like, I guess he got lost, and then they're like, all right, and they left him.
But then they came back and shot up the car, and it blew up.
That scene was fucking badass, man. That car fucking just like jumped up when it blew up and shit. That was just so fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, I just love that scene. He's like, Lance, do you like this car? It's an amazing machine.
It's a great machine. Yeah,
but that's how the only a 10-second car thing started.
Yeah. I love how he used that at the end. Where he's like, "What are you sure? Are you sure you know what you're doing?" He's like, "Hey, I owe you a 10-second car."
Yeah.
But
It was funny. It seemed like the chief guy like almost told him like, choose your family. Like he like had that little discussion about family. Like there's different kinds of family, and you have to choose what yours. Like
The
he's
meme is
almost
born.
telling him. He's almost telling him like if you don't feel like you should betray your friends there, then don't. Like they're your family, and even though you're a cop, like maybe you shouldn't be. Like he basically was like telling him, which was kind of cool.
Oh,
Well, an interesting thing I wanted to point out that I just realized after talking about our fellow Hector there is that, for those of us that this isn't our preferred genre, we lean towards horror films. And actually, really, all three of our principal cast members were in horror films. What's his ass? Paul Walker did Joyride. We had Michelle Rodriguez was in Resident Evil.
Yep, great.
Yeah,
movie.
and Vin Diesel was in Pitch Black, which is, it's a sci-fi horror film.
And the Riddick movies. Riddick were a little bit less horror and more sci-fi, but the Pitch Black was definitely horror sci-fi.
Straight up.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. I didn't mean to interrupt, but it was worth mentioning.
Oh yeah.
When I first saw Riddick, I didn't realize it was like a continuance of the character at first, and then I realized I was like, oh shit, he's playing the same character as in Pitch Black.
Well, poor Hector was in Hoods of Horror and Gangs of the Dead. I imagine those are worth a watch.
I
don't know about that.
If I remember correctly, James Wan, who also is from horror, also ended up directing Furious 7.
Yeah, I feel like that's something I remember hearing.
He did several of them.
Yep.
Furious 7, is that the one with the tank? I think that might be the one with the tank.
I think he did like Annabelle one time, Annabelle or Conjuring. He did both of them.
Yeah, that whole universe is basically a James Wan creation. Malignant is his newest one, and it sounds like it. A lot of people hated it, but a lot of people loved it.
Did the devil maybe do it?
I think he might have produced on that one. I don't remember. I don't know if he actually directed that.
He's produced on a lot of horror films to help some of those along the way. But in any case, so he takes him home, and that's where he takes Vince's beer and gives it to him, and he gets all upset. And,
that's a great. Well, actually, he told him to choose which beer he wants, and he's like, he chose that one. He's like, oh, well, that's his beer, and he's like, he just looks at him, fucking opens the beer and chugs it, and he's just looking at him like, I'm fucking killing you, man.
And that's also the first time that he really gets to really talk to Mia. He goes upstairs.
He goes upstairs, and they end up.
Yeah.
No,
he kind of gets to understand. She's the girl who's trying to work and become a nurse or something to try, I guess, to be the first person in their family who doesn't really go into crime.
Yeah, she had a thing for him right away though, because like when she's looking out the window and she saw him coming to the house, she's like, "Oh shit!" She fucking got all dressed up and.
But it wasn't that way at first though. It wasn't until he came back with Toretto and she had to get ready for him.
I think she liked him even when she was coming to the restaurant, and then when they were telling him to get lost, and he just no and stood up for wanting to see her and shit, that made her like him even more, because
well, we find out later that Mia's one of those. The quiet ones are the ones to watch out for.
She
because she definitely does know a lot of the stuff.
She definitely
that's going on.
knew that he wasn't coming back for the tuna. Like everybody knows the food sucks, but
I mean, she already started her life of crime with those sandwiches.
But the view was nice. She was a great driver.
Those couldn't have been legal.
What's wrong with the tuna? My God. Anyways. I'm one who actually, when I lived in Chicago, there was this place called Pita Pete's, and I swear their tuna wrap was really damn good.
Okay, David, we all know you like tuna.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I like pig salmon. Anyways. But in any case, moving on. So we get that whole like gathering, and I also want to mention that little pipsqueak dude that seems to have like
Jesse?
Tourette's. Yeah, Jesse. The guy who played Jesse showed up in a film that Boris and I talked about. The I Spit on Your Grave remake, I believe.
Oh, that one. I didn't recognize him, but who did he play? I forgot.
He played the one that was supposed to be the one with disabilities.
Oh,
Yeah, that was him.
Like the younger
He's
brother
been
or
in quite a
whatever.
few movies. I never seen those movies you're talking about, but I've seen him in quite a few
It's good.
different movies. He's a good
One
actor.
of the better
I like
remakes
him.
for sure.
I like him. You know.
But I figured since you mentioned horror, we forgot to mention
Yeah,
him.
that's good. It's a solid one to point out. I missed that actually. I really liked that. I Spit on Your Grave remake.
Wait, Mo missed a horror movie? Holy shit!
No, I just missed it on the cast there. I
Wasn't
was
Jordana
okay.
Brewster in one of the Chainsaw Massacre films? I think she was in the one with Dennis Hopper.
I believe so.
yeah, that's right. Huh?
He
So-
was.
Yeah, so I mean, all of them have probably done one at least. You know.
But in any case, we get to know him a little bit because he's got like his either granddad's car or dad's car that he ends up going and races at race wars later on, and I hate what happens to him, you know. Ultimately, after this is when Race Wars happens, I believe, which is a race that is done out in the desert. Oh, in between all that is where we find out that he is that O'Connor is actually talking to the police because they show up and tell him. They show up and tell him that somebody is destroying property or stealing property from other body shops or what?
No, the trucks.
The trucks.
Yeah.
And so they end up moving in on Tran because of what he uncovers.
Yeah, he was sleeping with Maya when they called him about it, and he was like, "Just say yes if you agree." And he said yes, and he was sleeping with Maya was right next to him, naked and shit.
But it goes to show you.
Fortunately, we don't get to see that, but our imaginations were there, I'm sure.
No, but it goes to show you within the plot, at least. I mean, that O'Connor was really starting to kind of blend his allegiances because I think he knew deep down inside that Tran was the wrong lead, but he just went ahead and wanted to believe that.
Right. He knew it was Toretto.
Right.
Like
he wanted
knew
to
it was
believe
Toretto. Like everybody, even though his boss said, it's Toretto. Like it's always been Toretto,
Right.
and like he knew that, but he was already feeling that Toretto was like kind of a good guy.
And Tran was really pissed too. I mean, when he showed up at Race Wars,
Toretto.
he was really pissed at Toretto. Because
he's like somebody knocked and it was you, and then
he's just like SWAT.
I never knock on my friends.
I've never knocked on anyone.
Disrespected my family.
That was a great scene when they fucking all come in there. Fucking, there's like 50 fucking guys busting in his house just to fucking arrest the one dude.
But I mean, Tran is the one who made that pop off because he told him to go fetch my car. Hey, go fetch my car.
Yeah,
hey,
I know he did.
Hey, maybe the kid is taking it to the
he's
car
like-
wash to get
he's
a
like,
wax for you.
Who you think this isn't your area. Who you think watch who you're talking to? And then
Well,
he's
and
like,
actually, we forget about the first race that happens, which is Michelle Rodriguez's character, where she basically.
Oh, that guy that was like trying to hit on her and shit,
yeah.
and she was just like,
She can
put your money
scowl
in
at me
the
any day, dude.
I could tell that she was gonna like whoop his ass like in the race.
Oh yeah, you could definitely tell.
Because
I was thinking, man, that guy had balls.
he was coming off all cocky as hell.
And he was like, I love the scene where he's like, yeah, as he passes, just about passes her, and then she hits the fucking booster, and then all of a sudden he looks, he's like, and he sees that, I see how fucking powerhead she is. He's like, what? The look on his face is fucking
And the
priceless.
thing that we forget to mention about the street racing is that they are racing for each other's car, and oftentimes it's money that has been thrown down.
Well, usually it's money.
That goes with.
The car thing is something Paul Walker did because he didn't have cash. Well, his thing was he didn't have cash, and he had and he wanted basically street cred, you know.
Yeah,
so he wanted. So
I thought.
And then I don't know
was,
why the kid did the same thing. Why he did pink slips, but he did, and you know he lost his father's vehicle because of it, and yeah, then ended up getting killed because of it. Spoiler.
Here's a question: are pink slips actually a thing? Because I don't know that I've ever had one for a car. Is it? Should I?
Yeah, I've had one.
So it's something that should be in my glove box, like legally.
What is a pink slip?
It's a
pink slips were back in the day.
You own the vehicle. It's
oh, so it's just like your registration,
right? It's kind of like it's a certificate of ownership. Like if you get a car, like if you're buying a car from a car lot and you're still paying on the car, you don't have it because they have it. You don't own because you don't own the car until you pay it off. So that's when you would actually get the slip. But if you never, if you end up trading up to another car or whatever, you'll never see the pink slip, because that's why most people don't hear pink slips anymore, because cars are so expensive. They don't just out and out buy vehicles no more, like they used to. You know,
they need to make the registrations pink so that the cops don't always think I'm hiding something when I get pulled over. I'm not, dude. I just can't find it.
Yeah, they're not really a thing anymore. You just got to keep that little registration paper when you renew the plates.
Yeah.
You know,
I gotta stop throwing Taco Bell packets in my glove box, and then maybe I'd be able to fish around in there a little easier.
If you sold your car, like you owned your car straight out, and you sold it, and someone else went to buy it, you would end up giving them a pink slip.
Right. Okay.
You know, it's a lot rarer than it used to be. I mean, back in the day, it was a lot more. Now vehicles are just so fucking expensive. Nobody buys them right out anymore.
Yeah, I've never owned a car that wasn't like $600 that I just bought straight across. So never dealt with too much of that. I was just curious.
No, I think it's at this point where I guess while dude has gone off. Jesse has gone off with his car somewhere. His crew decides that they are going to perform a heist. And that's about when O'Connor
got a line on some George Foreman grills that are getting shipped.
We wish, man. I'd be fucking open on that shit.
Okay, some bacon.
That's when O'Connor ends up going to Mia and saying, "Hey, I need to know where this shit is going down. I'm a cop." You know, he actually tells her that he's a cop. Then.
You son of a bitch! And just walks away from him and shit.
Well, yeah, but he's trying to prevent them from getting busted.
He ends up talking to her like, you know, I'm trying to prevent them from getting arrested or killed, because he knows the truck drivers are striking back.
Yes,
and not just laying down and taking it. So either her brother's gonna end in a crew and one of them die or arrested, and he doesn't want that to happen. He cares about them, and he's trying to convince her that even though he's a cop, he actually cares, and she's the only one that can help him help them.
Meanwhile, the heist is going.
Mia was also in a Texas Chainsaw movie. She was in the beginning with Arlie Ermy. I knew that I would recognize her from something as well.
Is she naked in the movie?
I don't think so.
Damn, I just want to see her naked, man.
I don't know if we've ever gotten nudity
I
in a
have a good
Chainsaw movie. Now
imagination,
that I
but
think about
I
it,
just want to see how close I am.
Uh,
I think she's shaving. I mean,
all right, give me
I
a minute here, guys. I'll do some looking. Hold on,
Yeah.
you continue
So,
with what you're
sorry you have to hear all this, Tammy, but you know.
you-
Well, that was
I'm
probably
sure
one of the
Tammy
best.
wants to see her nude too. Come
there's
on.
there's some there's some single
No, thank you.
fellas
I like to see Alex O'Loughlin nude.
Oh, Lord.
I don't know who that is.
He's from Hawaii Five-O and Moonlight.
It's a guy. I'm
Classic.
sure there's a girl out there that Tammy would like to see naked, and she just doesn't know yet.
Hey, when
There's
I
always
first
that
met
one girl
her,
where girls are like, you know, I'm not gay, but if I swung that way, yeah.
when I first met her, it was Kevin Sorbo. So
Yeah, I'd let Paul Walker in there with those baby blues.
Hercules.
Let me tell you.
Hercules.
but in any case,
Home
moving
Sweet
on.
Hell from 2015. If you guys are curious, you know.
Yeah, I just want to see her naked. Damn.
In
Well,
any case,
let's see where it's streaming.
So the heist is happening, and that trucker's not playing games. He's got a shotgun.
He's got a
with, like,
shotgun.
rocks.
He knows how to use it. He was actually a pretty decent driver. I mean, he's driving pretty damn well while fucking shooting their asses, and he fucking shot pretty well too. He obviously wasn't just picking up the gun for the first time, you know.
And one of their crew ends up getting his arm like stuck in.
The guy that's always against Paul Walker's character, the guy that's always hating on him, and he ends up saving his life.
Vince. You know, when I was doing some research, they said that scene they had to re-edit it because the original version of that scene they were going to give them a rated R for the movie, but they didn't change the way that scene was Vince because they said in the original because his arm is even more fucked up.
Yeah, we'd like to see that. I get to see the deleted scenes or something.
I wonder if it's on like one of the physical releases.
I don't know.
It's like a deleted scene or something.
Unfortunately,
Krol, we are locked away from those sweet boobs by a Starz subscription. So unless you got one of those,
I have Starz subscription.
Oh, there you go, Home Sweet Hell. You can watch it on Hulu with the.
And she shows her boobs there.
I don't know what she shows, but it says there's sexy extortionists and shit in it. So.
Okay, I gotta watch it, man. I'll be bummed if I don't see any tits, but yeah, I'll let you know.
I'm probably gonna check it out.
You're probably checking it out just because you love horror. I'm checking it out because I want to see the boobs.
All right. So it goes south, the heist, and
totally.
They totally didn't expect the trucker to be.
Yeah, the truck driver was, like I said, he was fucking good. I mean,
but
he
another
was
thing is
good.
Jesse not being there hurt them because they would have been able to have another body.
Car, yeah, definitely. But they all felt like the girlfriend's like, you know, this don't feel right, and the other one's like, this don't feel right without Jesse, and they're all like Toretto's the only one that seems to be like wanting to still keep going. Like the rest of them just kind of didn't really want to do it, but they're doing it because he was doing it. But yeah, they all felt like there was something wrong with that shit, and they should have gone with their gut because if Paul Walker's character hadn't come in to save the day, man, they were burying at least one of them.
This is also the scene where we get Toretto hearing him make the call to a police dispatcher with his officer and badge number, and he's like,
he looked at his sister, and his sister just looked at him like, yeah, she knows, but you know, he's trying to save his life, you know.
Go ahead,
what's up, Boris?
Yeah, I wanted to say that scene was pretty good. His facial expression was quite impacting there.
Yeah, he's like, wait, what? you are a cop?
Yeah.
Like, what the? I mean, it's great how he didn't say anything, you know, but his expression said it all. Like
but in the background noise, like you could feel like there was a tension. Like I forgot what was the noise in the background, but it kept building, almost as if you could just feel it in his heart. Like he was upset. He was really upset.
Yeah,
And Maya is torn whether
Yeah.
to go with him and
I
or
love that.
with
I
Toretto.
love that scene when Paul
The best
Walker's
scene in the
looking
movie,
at the helicopter and she's
Yeah.
looking at him, and her brother's like, "Come on!" And she's looking at her brother, and she's looking at him, and she's looking at her brother, and she's looking like,
Yeah.
"What way do I go?" Like, and she went
Yeah.
with her brother, of course, but it wasn't the end with them, So
No.
yeah, I really like those two together. They got good chemistry too.
Yeah.
Well, and ultimately, after getting Dude to the hospital or whatnot, O'Connor ends up showing back up at their crib, and at their house, but they probably called it a crib.
He pulls his gun on him because Toretto has a shotgun because he wants to go get his friend Jesse. Is it Jesse?
Yep.
To go
But
get
Jesse shows
and
up.
Paul Walker doesn't want him to get himself killed and shit, so he's just put the gun down and trying to tell him to put the gun down, and then of course Jesse shows up and then he gets fucking shot, and Paul Walker just jumps in the car and chases after them immediately, and that's when fucking Vin Diesel gets into the car and then brings the beast out. And that's when we're thinking, yeah, shit's gonna fucking hit the fan now. And yeah, it was the car that hit the fan.
Well, and the dudes are on the bikes.
I love that. I love that scene.
The bike scenes are awesome.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I love how, even though he was a cop, Toretto still helped him out. He realized that he may be a cop, but he did everything he could to save his buddy. He did everything he could to help them. Even being a cop, he was still their friend. And first thing he did, he's a cop. He's supposed to chase out the bad guy anyways. But the way he did, he just bolted super fast. It wasn't just chasing the bad guys. It was personal, because he felt.
One thing I will give this movie is that it's maybe the first time I can remember the whole boosting stuff from truck drivers being depicted where it wasn't mafia guys doing it, because you see that in movies.
Yeah, it was really cool. In the beginning when you first see it being done, when I'm not sure, I think it might have been the Chinese people. I'm not sure. They don't really tell you which crew did that first heisting, but when they had the hook onto the truck and all the cars hooked onto the truck and shit, and they were just doing that precision. It was.
And I want to say that's fairly accurate to how people would do it too. The mafia dudes would just pull you over and basically hold a shotgun to you and take all your shit.
Yeah, these are street racers that are boosting shit.
Yeah, kind of a cool update to that classic sort of heist, truck driver heist that we've seen in a bunch of mafia movies of the past.
Yep.
But Tammy, you liked this scene where they were racing against each other. When they saw some tracks up ahead, what was your reaction?
Well, yeah, that was really it. So when he brought that charger out, I was like, yes, this is the best part of the movie now.
Yeah,
had me pretty moist.
I was pretty psyched too.
That was one hell of a race. They just barely beat that damn train, and then he ends up smashing anyway.
And then they look at each other, and then Brian sees the truck, and he's like, he didn't even have time to warn him. It was just some boom flipped.
I know. I was so happy to see the charger come out. And I was like, yeah.
And then the charger got destroyed.
And then all of a sudden, no more charger.
It carries on a good tradition of the classic car movies when you think about it. That's kind of, they do that with a Vanishing Point, where you fall in love with the car and then they destroy it at the end, and
I love how when Brian
that fucking car,
when Brian goes over to him and Vin Diesel's like, this isn't how I thought it was gonna turn out. And then they had the police sirens, and that's when he hands him the car, and that whole scene. That scene was so good. It was him finally choosing, okay, I'm a cop, but I'm gonna let you go. Like get the fuck out of here. Like just go. Like take my car. Like I owe you a 10-second car. Like not making a big deal out of it. Just kind of like I owe you this car. You know, which has just kind of been the running joke. You know that he owed him the car.
But you know, there's an alternate ending.
Is there?
That is out there for this movie, where after that whole race happens, instead of him just kind of giving him the car and walking away and that's it, the guy who's his boss takes him back to Mia's house where Mia is packing, and he gets out the car and he tells her, he quit. He resigned from the force, so I guess he wouldn't have to go to jail. What he did, helping a criminal. But he does say to her, he was like, I want to try and, make this right. He want to start over with her, quote unquote. So if that actually had been the final ending, we may not have even gotten the sequels that we did get,
I mean, I don't feel that would have stopped the sequels. But
you got a point.
I think it would have been
the
cool.
popularity would have carried it into some kind of sequels, but it might have played out differently.
Yeah, it might have played out differently.
Because this was too hot to not cash in on.
Doesn't the second movie start with him like getting out of jail from?
No, he escaped. No, he escapes in the second movie, like in the beginning.
Yeah,
because he doesn't go to jail. He gets caught in Miami.
And Toretto and no one else that was in this movie was in it in the second one.
Yeah, because they offered Vin Diesel the part. They offered him a chance to come back, but at the time he was like, I think that story is pretty much done,
and then he saw those paychecks coming.
Then he saw the money, and he was like, all right, I'm gonna come back and get everything.
Triple X didn't do as good as I thought, so maybe.
Yeah, did he do another Riddick? He did another Triple X. And he did some other movies like in between.
Dude, he wall rides a
freaking
tour bus in one of those Triple X movies with a mountain longboard. It's amazing. It doesn't make physical sense at all, but Vin Diesel wall riding a friggin' Greyhound on a longboard was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Well, it is kind of funny. Later in the franchise of Fast and the Furious, it's because of stunts that what she did in Triple X that some of the stunts were able to happen.
I'm sure.
Like there is a moment where like he crashes a car into a ravine that fairly similarly reminds me of him crashing his car.
Wow.
But this is the only one that has a plot, compared to the later sequels. I mean, they have plots, but this one, at least you can kind of tell the beginning, middle, and end.
This seems like an actual film,
yeah, quote unquote.
Right. It's that's one thing I took away from it watching it this time was like, damn, this is, a good movie of its time. Even though I'm not the hugest fan of it, like I'm glad that at least this first one exists.
I mean, it has aged a little bit because now that I've seen a lot of things that were done in green screen, like some of the racing parts, you can tell are not like the shit you'd see. Like outside your vehicle while you're passing, like all them blurred lights, I
mean, it's a cool effect for what they had to work with, but it's a movie of its time. It definitely takes me back to a good time because I was for sure a teenager, and I mean, even though I don't love it, I definitely still have nostalgia for it, which is weird. It's one of those odd times for me where that's happened,
You were a teenager? I thought you had a curious case of Benjamin Button.
Well, I mean, I was walking with a cane. But,
Wow. Didn't see that coming.
Wow.
But in any case, I think that's pretty much the film, for the most part. Did we want to talk about the production of film?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's a slick movie, dude. It's
I really like when they first show like them using the nitrous oxide. And they show like the engine. They show like the juice going into the wires and stuff, and they show like those wires and stuff. I thought it was just like a cool effect. Whereas it's like kind of showing us what happens to it, whether it was realistic or not. I
Like
don't
when
know,
they
but
push the
it
button,
looked
when they
it,
push
and
the
it was
button,
cool.
and then you
Yeah,
see it go
yeah,
through. Yeah.
like both of them, both Vin Diesel and Brian, like they both did it. Like,
I
and
mean,
they
I
showed
feel
both
like
of
that's
theirs,
what's
and
happening when I drink
yeah.
the drinks, so it's fairly
Well, yeah,
realistic.
it was pretty cool. Also, I do want to mention a scene. I know we haven't done scenes yet, but I do want to mention this one scene when we're talking about that. When Jesse does his prayer, it's fucking hilarious. I'm laughing my ass off because he's just all talking like
That is
like
one thing I
vehicles.
forgot to mention. I love the fact that when they get together, the first person who touches the food has to say grace.
Right.
Um,
You know, it was funny. You see Brian's face on that scene, like, wow, these guys like pray before they eat and shit. Like they're not that bad. Like you could tell that's what he's thinking. Like he was just like
He
kinda,
would think that. He does look like a youth group pastor,
he
kind
was
of.
surprised that they were gonna say grace before they ate and stuff. Like, you know, because in his mind still they're criminals. You know, he hadn't really, you know, gotten to know them yet, and
Well, yeah.
and everything. So
Yeah.
and I
They don't
think
usually
it's,
find Jesus till after they go to prison or something.
I think
Right.
it's
well,
Vince.
Jesus' character was in prison, so you know.
I think it's Vince who actually says grace first, and then
No, Jesse says it.
okay, because I thought because Vince showed up late and everything.
No,
it was
he
because
showed
he
up
was
after
late.
Grace. He showed up.
Okay.
He showed back up after Grace.
Yeah.
No, Jesse grabbed that drumstick, and that's when they said,
Yeah.
All right.
First to grab the food is the one that says Grace.
But I think that's the moment when he wasn't looking at them like you said. He wasn't a cop from there on after that point in the movie. I think that's when he kind of turned allegiances, personally speaking.
Yeah.
Because
well,
they kind of take him in.
That
closer.
definitely made him think that, you know, maybe they're not as bad as I thought. And then when he had that heart to heart, when he first showed him the car and everything, and they had that heart to heart talk and stuff, that's when he really realized what kind of person Shredder was, and that he wasn't. Yeah, he was doing some criminal shit and some bad stuff, but he wasn't that bad of a guy, and you know.
well, yeah, like you said, Cole, the heart to heart, he was telling him all about his dad and showing him all the pictures and everything.
Yeah, that, and then he knew that he had beaten somebody up to a pulp, and he didn't know why. And then when he had that discussion, he finds out why he had done that, what drove him over the edge to do that. And
Family
you can kind of understand that the dude just fucking clipped his father's truck and drove him into a wall and killed him. So, you know, that would flip a lot of people out, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And that becomes a theme through the whole franchise is family.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. I love the memes. I'll say that. I haven't seen the other movies, but God, do I love those memes. They're fucking hilarious.
He considers everybody in his crew is his family.
And
in terms of, I don't know, I think, man, the movie was for its time and the technology they had at their disposal.
They did the best they could.
They weren't fucking around with Fast and the Furious production-wise. I mean, it's a
they had
I think at the time. I think you'll appreciate Mo later in the franchise if you ever watched any of them. Jason Statham does some Lone Wolf and Cub shit.
Shit, I'm sold.
Like,
I love when The Rock comes in too. The Rock was pretty fucking awesome too.
It sounds like they kind of go Expendables and start intentionally jumping the shark, and I'm down for that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, Hobbs and Shaw is pretty fucking badass.
I love Shaw's sister, man. Shaw's sister.
Damn.
That woman there, man.
Yeah.
Hey, she can put me in the figure four lock anytime.
Hobbs liked her too.
It's important to note too that Pretty Girls and the car scene are definitely kind of synonymous.
Oh yeah, totally.
If they keep up the rich tradition of fine ladies that they have in this one going, I'm pretty sure I'll be like down to watch them even if I don't like them.
Dude, even Mendez and the Too Fast, Too Furious, fuck, man. Fuck. That's all I can say.
The thing is, they have the pretty girls with the cars, but not many of the girls get into racing the cars. That's what I think is cool. Yeah.
Well, I like how Mia.
They should have done Too Fast, Too Familiar as like the female sequel, dude.
But she knows how to drive. I really like seeing her drive, and and she was crazy, and obviously she enjoys it too.
They really don't get him in there even in the later movies. That's surprising. I would think that
they get a little bit more, but not like how you would think.
Yeah.
Right, because the first one, it makes sense. Back then, that was sort of still kind of a thing. Dudes were like the center of stuff. But I think as many as these as they've done over all the years, they would have.
Yeah, I'm surprised that maybe 9 might have more. I don't know. I haven't seen that one yet. But yeah, even now, with the whole women power with everything, yeah, they still haven't really adopted that with the Fast and Furious series yet. But
well, even nowadays, when I go to the car shows. Usually, if there's a woman by a car, she's there with her man. Yeah. There's not really many women.
Or she's in a bikini on the hood.
There's not usually many women that are actually showing their own car.
Just a sausage fest, huh?
Yeah,
imagine when my mom
it's not usually a thing where women.
Well, yeah, whenever I've sat next to Tammy's 1972 Grand Prix, they first looked to me.
I want you in a bikini on the hood, Dave. That's
That's a scary.
Well,
that would be a horror movie in its own.
Right? Yes. I don't think that.
When my mom started going to these shows back in the 80s, it was really, you didn't see a woman showing her own car, And it really hasn't changed a whole lot,
No,
I had a friend of mine, Don, was sitting by my car, and I went. We were at Hardee's, and they had a car show, and I went in Hardee's for something. And I come back out. He goes, "Don't do that." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Because all these people come up and think it's mine and ask me all these questions."
at least back in the 80s, all the dudes had big hair along with the ladies, though. That would probably have been pretty sweet.
No, I think at this point in time, we can talk about the soundtrack. The soundtrack was pretty good.
Yeah, but the music.
Deep Enough by Live, Watch Your Back, performed by Benny Cassette, Say Ah, performed by Shauna, Rollin' by Limp Bizkit.
Keep rolling.
Ja Rule with Furious. Cadillac Ta with Pop City Anthem.
Unfortunately, Take My Time Tonight by R. Kelly.
Let's not go there.
Life Ain't
we got a Funkmaster Flex track up on there, though. That's pretty great.
Life Ain't the Game with Ja Rule, so this must have been a Ja Rule soundtrack.
Ja Rule was super big at the time, man. I mean, it was.
And for casting, I do need to say this. Eminem was the first choice for Paul Walker's role. He was one of the first choices.
God, I can only.
No, Eminem was one of the first choices to play O'Connor. He was doing 8 Mile at the same time. They're getting
8 Mile was great, but
he said, "No, I'm not interested." He is just like, I'm doing my own thing over here. Then they went to Mark Wahlberg, and Wahlberg turned it down too.
Thank God we didn't need Marky Mark in this.
And before that, they went to
I like Marky Mark, but I don't think he would have been good in that role.
Evil Ways by Santana.
What did you say before that? What, KJ?
Christian Bale. Christian Bale was also up for this movie.
Christian Bale, I maybe could have seen doing it.
Mm-hmm, maybe.
He might have been able, acting chops-wise, to pull it off.
I don't think he would have done a franchise, though. He would have done a franchise. I don't think that. At least...
No.
Oh, there's a song called Mercedes-Benz in here by Say Yes Dog. There you go.
Nice one.
I think Superstar was by Saliva. Great band.
Some names I
right.
I don't know if I'd call Saliva a great band.
Well, I wouldn't
they were
say
memorable.
A great band. They were memorable.
Click, boom.
Every 6 seconds. Come on.
So they're okay. It's what I imagine. I don't know, man. I don't want to go too deep into the Saliva hate, but I have my issues.
Let's don't hate like people hate Nickelback.
Hey, I like
Nickelback. The Nickelback of the new metal scene. When you think about Saliva, they were that band. I mean, everyone liked the song, but oof.
I just let you guys talk about it because you know what? I don't know any of these bands and I don't know any of this music at all.
I like Nickelback.
I think they could have
I-
done more with more of the rap rock fusion stuff on there a little bit. It is kind of a little bit rap and R&B heavy. Not that I am ever going to complain about that because I love that shit too.
I
but
will complain
They
about
should
it.
have had Zombie on it.
Because I'm not a
regardless,
fan.
You gotta think about the
KJ
scene, though. You gotta think
Yeah,
about the scene.
KJ made a good point earlier when he talked about how the whole rap rock fusion shit was coming up really hard at the same time as all this. And when you look at the street racing scene, it's very, very diverse. This was probably outside of the 90s the first time that a lot of these different, ethnic groups were really mixing together as part of the same passionate hobby. Maybe skateboarding, you could make a case for having a similar thing going on, but not as on a large of a scale.
Right.
As that
grunge and rap kind of both used for this. I mean, both of them kind of came together.
Yep.
I think Rob Zombie would have fit good though.
Yeah, they could have had the Dragula song in there.
Zombie
It was in
always
every
fits
fucking
good.
racing video game at the time, so they might as well.
Well, we
have
did
thrown it in
find
there.
out that there was a song in one of the later franchises that was by Dope, which
Dope's
is
cool. I always loved Dope.
which is kind of Rob Zombie Wednesday 13ish.
Rob
Oh
Zombie.
yeah, Dope was like one of the originators of that whole kind of sound. Dope, Edsel Dope's actually the new singer for Static X nowadays, which is kind of neat.
But in any case, I think we're on to favorite scenes. Okay,
Anything with Michelle Rodriguez. So I don't really have like a favorite scene,
Favorite
but
scenes.
that's it for me.
Okay,
I got a
KJ,
handful.
if you could choose.
In terms of favorite scenes, I guess if I had to pick, I'm gonna say 3 scenes that really stood out to me. The first one we already covered, and that was the grace at the table, because it did show the unity that these people had together.
Yeah.
Second scene is going to be when Brian confesses that he's a cop. That was a really good acting moment between him and Mia. That was a really good acting moment. The last one's going to probably be the end of the movie when he says, "I owe you a 10-second car." I mean, those 3 scenes are just great to me. It's great because it illustrates the characters very well.
Right. More seriously, yeah, there's a lot of, I guess, yeah, I'd call them iconic, even though I'm not like a fan of the series yet, or probably never will be. But it's, for the movie, yeah, there's several iconic scenes in there, man.
Like, there's some good acting moments. I mean, this ain't a movie you think about acting for sure. But this is,
true, totally, and there really is some really
Yeah,
good acting in it.
It's definitely overlooked for that, and it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Boris, if you could choose a favorite scene or scenes from this movie, what would it be?
It would possibly be either the scene when they were chasing that truck, when they were shooting at each other and so on. That was one of the most intense scenes, which ended up in that moment when Dom finds out that Brian is a cop. That was one of the most suspenseful moments to me, and of course the final race between Brian and Dom, that was also pretty good. And well, if I gave it more thought, maybe I could think of some more, but yeah, basically the scenes with, as you already know, the inner joke, the scenes with Spudhouse. Spudhouse!
What about you, Tammy? Are there a favorite scene or scenes that you could take from this film?
Well, my very, very favorite scene is when they bring the Charger out and they race him. As soon as the Charger came out, it was like, yes! I couldn't wait to see that thing take off.
And then
Well,
they kill it, and you're like, no!
You love hearing that purr.
And I actually do like the scene that Boris was talking about with them trying to take over the truck. That was so intense. It just, you were sitting there the whole time, like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? It was such an intense scene,
Totally.
So I guess those would be my 2 favorites. My least favorite is when the Charger gets smashed.
It was a beautiful scene.
Agreed.
Scene wise, it was beautiful, but yeah, it was beautiful and sad at the same time. But I mean, the way they destroyed it was kind of beautiful, but yeah.
Yeah,
It was
just like
sad.
that other movie that we watched when the cat went out the window.
I will say, like,
Did you just throw my cat
That
out
shit
the
was just
window?
funny.
I will say,
Did he
even as
throw a
like,
cat out the window?
even as like not a car guy, that is probably my biggest gripe about the cars in the movie is that they don't sound cool. At least not to me. I prefer, I think, what Tammy's talking about and Dave, like that chunky, girthy sound of an old school muscle car. These cars all sound like they're powered by leaf blowers or like
Right. I always say they
several
go.
marital aids strapped to the
"Wee."
drivetrain in there or whatever. You know?
Loosely, for real. Like,
I
that's
mean,
what
we
I
were
get.
I was at the car show the one day, and where we were parked, the cars were coming to come in, and there was a couple of them that were going, going by and looking at all the cars. They were going the other way, and they thought they were so cool because they like lit it up in a yee, and everybody's just looking at them like, what the hell was that? Because we're all sitting there with cars that do that, that have the nice little purr to them,
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair to people that are on more that side of the fence when it comes to cars, I'm sure that shit sounds awesome. It's just to the layman, myself, I'm more accustomed to the sound of like proper motor vehicles, it's
Hey, listen to that Mustang going in 60 seconds. That Mustang sound like a grown man.
right.
Not a grown man.
Yeah.
What year is your car, Mo?
What's that?
What year is your car?
Oh, I drive a 2008 Ford Freestar, man. I'm a dad. I
2008?
drive that minivan,
Well, that's not totally yeah,
It's got that econo feel. It gets me going. I can get to Portland on half a tank. I'm good.
He needs to go, so.
Well, I have an 11 Avalanche, so he does have a little bit of a rumble. So
Yeah, my van doesn't sound. I couldn't even honestly tell you what it sounds like. Usually my air conditioner drones out the motors.
Mine definitely does not rumble. I have a Subaru.
my Subaru.
I did own like a little Toyota like rice burner type car for like a day once, but it immediately got ran off the road by this dude and totaled, and then I just ended up with another
What
Crown
the
Vic.
fuck?
Dude, yeah, it was gnarly, and seeing how messed up it got in a crash at like 35 miles an hour, I was definitely glad that I switched back to a Crown Vic because
I loved my Toyota Celica, but I avoided accidents with it, so
yeah, there was no choice in this circumstance, and it looked like they took a
something
can
that will
opener
happen.
to it, and all I did was like slide against a chain link fence at like 35 miles an hour.
Oh,
Tonka toys.
Yeah, it basically was like a glorified RC car that you could sit in and drive. So I definitely feel safer in not these cars, I would say.
yeah, I know, David. The way I was brought up, a lot of my family and friends don't like foreign cars, so like Toyotas were always called Tonka toys.
Hey, I've always heard "Town on Road" dead for Ford, so
I got the better one.
I've
Fucked over
almost
rebuilt
exclusively
Dodge.
driven. I think that's more towards the trucks with the Ford ship. Those are usually the guys.
Fix
you
or
see
repair
making those
daily.
jokes. And I can't speak to that, but I've drove like 3-4 Crown Vics at this point for several years, and the things that always like totaled them out, quote unquote, for me was like, oh shit, this one has a hole in the gas tank. Well, it was $400. I'll just go to the police auction and buy another one for $400.
Cars for a reason. I mean,
they were for a while. My second Crown Vic was an old
time.
sheriff's car. Yeah, it had the Interceptor engine in it, and that
Crown
thing
Vics are
sounded
always
like
a police car,
a
so
fucking
it's
Randy
right.
Night Beast, dude. Like you kicked in after you got up above like 55 and that Interceptor shit started kicking in. It sounded like those police chases you see on TV, and it definitely would scare me a little bit, but it was also invigorating, So I guess there's a little hair of like a car dude deep down inside that's like, damn, that feels good,
See, my one friend, he said he calls Ford's fucked over rebuilt Dodge.
Hey, if you're getting them for under $500, you're good.
Well, my other buddy says if you bring anything Ford or Ford in his driveway, he will blow it up.
My first Crown Vic, we used to always just drive at like 80 miles an hour straight into cornfields at night when we were teenagers. We thought that was like the funniest fucking thing in the world, to just plow into cornfields. And in hindsight, there's those irrigation circles out there. Like, we're lucky we aren't dead. You know, we could have hit one of those things, and we were never wearing seatbelts, so it just would have been bad.
Well, you know what? My father's got all of you. They're in there's the Milwaukee River that runs through my Cohen and Thiensville area, and it would always freeze over. My dad and his friends would go drag racing on the frozen river. They
That's
drove
wild.
the municipality crazy because they had no way to ticket them. They're drag racing on a frozen river. What do you bust them for? They're on open water, but they're in a car. They're not on the street.
Reckless boating. That'd be funny to get that ticket in your car.
Reckless boating without a boat.
Speaking of boats, apparently an
doing that. So my dad, I've never heard of anybody else doing what they did back in his day about drag racing on the damn river. But
I've never heard of that with cars. I've heard of people doing it with snowmobiles, but that's a little bit more like expected, you know.
Apparently an acronym for Subaru is Sorry Unreal Bonsai Attempt at a Russian U.
I just remember those
What
fucking
the fuck?
Crocodile Dundee commercials for the Subaru Outback. You guys remember those?
Yeah.
yeah,
Classic.
I ain't in a car. This is a car.
We need more Paul Hogan in our lives these days.
Well,
What happened to Crocodile Dundee?
my favorite scene.
So you're
or
just gonna skip me,
scenes-
bitch?
I'm trying to think. Krol, why don't you tell us your favorite scene?
Sorry, I was just joking.
While I think.
Well, usually you go last, so that's why I'm like, you're skipping me.
you got a long time to talk, Carl. He's thinking.
Dave went sleeves optional today. He's not fucking around, bro.
Well, any
Look at that muscle shirt.
I'm not even
love
wearing a shirt, so
Too bad there's not muscle to go with it.
Yeah, there's
under that.
plenty of muscle somewhere.
I don't have any.
Look at those pythons, man. What are you talking about?
Any scene with Mia, I mean that's a
Boa constrictors.
She's
What are you
just
talking about?
she's so damn hot. There's a lot of great scenes. There's a lot of great lines. So it's very hard to pick one, because there's just so many awesome fucking scenes. You know, I love all the race scenes. You know, I really like it when Toretto, when they're on the bike and they're chasing the motorcycle guys, and Toretto comes up and the guy just goes crashes into the car and goes flying in the air. You know, Superman without powers. I really love that scene. I have to agree with everybody else. The end truck scene was very tense, was very great. I mean, it was just like, in the moment he got onto that truck, he was in trouble, and like they kept trying to get him off, and you know he just kept getting more stuck, and he's shot, and he's trying to fucking survive. It's really fucking good. It's really fucking. They really did a great scene, and then right after with that scene where he finds out he's a cop, where Toretto finds out he's a cop. The scene with Mia finds out is good. I agree with you guys, but the scene when Toretto finds out, just his expressions, like he didn't say a word, but he said so much in his eyes and face, like you just know exactly what he would have said and what he was thinking, and it was just really well done. I'd have to make that like my favorite scene.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was so well done. You know, I mean, there's just so many scenes where they show really great acting, and yeah, you hear Fast and Furious, you know what the movies are about, but you don't hear anyone talking about the great acting in it, and there really is some really great fucking acting in it. You know, Paul Walker was one of a kind. It's surely missed, and it's a shame he died so young, and ironically he died in a car crash. But yeah,
I do have to say, Krol, you know, if you wouldn't have picked this, I don't know when I would have watched it, because it really was not
I know.
on my radar to watch, because I had this idea that all it was going to do was going to be racing these stupid cars around, not real cars like the Charger. And that was the idea that I had about the movie.
Yeah,
And
I really like this because I hate NASCAR too. I was boring as hell. I like drag racing. I think it's fun. I like car chases, and I like the fancy looking cars. I mean, the old muscle cars that are souped up like his, I like, and the one in the Impala and Supernatural. There's a few old, and of course Mustang. I love Ford Mustangs.
well, I'm glad you picked it
Especially
because
older Ford Mustangs, but it was your birthday and you're a car enthusiast. So I thought, okay, so let me show something I know you haven't seen, but something I felt like you might get some enjoyment out of. So that's basically why I picked this movie. I picked it kind of for you. And I knew you wouldn't pick it for yourself because of your thoughts, but I thought that you would get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
and thank you. I really did. I did.
Yeah.
I got into
You're
it a
welcome.
whole lot more than I thought I would, and I realized that there was more to it than just all these cars racing around. There was
there
a plot,
really
there
is.
was a whole bunch to
There
it.
is a good storyline. There is, I mean, the other movies probably not really have much of a story. They just kind of continue this story that didn't really need to be continued.
Just bigger
but
hijacks,
I
basically.
enjoy them. I enjoy those movies just as much as this one. But it's definitely this could have been a one and done, and it'd still be a great movie.
Wish it
They
was.
seem like they're the types of things you watch for the gratuitous fun of it, kind of like you would like the fucking Kickboxer sequels or something like that. Like by the third one, you know that you're just watching trash, but it's like fun.
Exactly.
I think there are a lot of films that we can say that
Rambo,
we wish they were one and done.
Most of the horror stuff or anything really could be one and done as long as the first
Jason,
one's strong.
Michael, like all of them, just
The only franchise that I think that really was great all four movies was Lethal Weapon.
Agreed. That is one of the few that I will say that
I would also throw in Born Identity.
Lethal Weapon was definitely not.
I still gotta fuck with those Bourne movies properly. I've only ever seen like snippets of them.
Oh, the Bourne movies are
awesome. That's one where I also enjoy the Richard Chamberlain adaptation too.
Those and John Wick, like that's this
John
kind
Wick
of shit.
is good too.
Newer action movies is more my brother's thing. I'm more like horror and then older action and like car movies.
John Wick was good.
I like some old action.
He kills dude with a pencil, if I remember right.
I watched the new action and I like it. I like it better. I like the new action much better than the old action.
All over a dog.
How sick would it have been if the sequels to this, instead of being cars, they just went like random other racing? Like the next one was like go-karts, and the one after that was like lawnmowers, and then they did like jet boats in the south.
Push carts in Jamaica.
Hell yeah, dude. We could have got Cool Runnings too. They also missed a huge opportunity by not crossing this over with Transformers at some point.
I was thinking, when you were saying it, I was thinking GoBots and Transformers and shit.
How badass would that have been if it was like...
That would have been badass.
I think it would have been sick, dude.
Toretto
between this and Transformers.
Toretto against... fucking what's his name?
Optimus Prime.
No, Optimus Prime. The Decepticon, because Decepticon was that guy.
I like Bumblebee.
Yeah, Megatron.
How the hell are you forgetting Megatron?
Toretto against Megatron.
Yeah, that'd been
Bumblebee
tight,
rules. I like Bumblebee.
Who doesn't? But
which is why he got his own.
Exactly. That's why I got his own movie, because everybody.
But in any case, trying to think of what my favorite scenes were. I do like the Grace moment because
it was good. It was
because I like the idea that the whole reason why he does anything, Dom does anything, is for family. And it comes into play later in the franchise, and I love the fact that it means something to him, and he lives in a criminal world,
It's all about the family.
He lives a quarter mile at a time.
Yep.
Oh god, I'm sure that there was so many spoofs of that whole "living your life a quarter mile at a time" line after this came out too. It popped up and everything. I'm pretty
Ride or
sure
die.
at the end of one of the Chris Seaver movies,
That's New Hampshire, dude.
they spoof Fast and the Furious, if I remember right, where he's like, "Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop to take a look around, sometimes you might miss it or whatever."
I don't know which movie, which sequel it was in, but I loved it that he said there was a saying. He said, "Oh, somebody was saying to Dom, you're gonna take him on. Do you know what he's got under the hood?" And Dom looks at him and says, "It's not what's under the hood. It's what's behind the wheel."
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, in the context of the movies, you can buy the sort of like schmoozy corniness of that shit. But outside of it, it super lends itself to memes. Like I said, that's most of my exposure to the film is those family memes, and they are hilarious. You don't even need to have seen the other ones to kind of get it too, which makes them brilliant. Anyways, continue, Dave.
I would have to also say, I think I like the expression on Dom's face when he's told he's a cop. I also like the scene where he's telling him about his dad, and I do have to say that the running joke between them about the 10-second car throughout the franchise is kind of cool.
It reminds me of like the Lando Han Solo Millennium Falcon thing from the sounds of it, you know? Where it's
Right.
like, yeah, because that's the whole thing with that is it was like won and lost in a bet several times, and it's supposed to be this big fast spaceship, you know?
Yeah, a little bit. But I just anything with the Charger for some reason is
That
always
didn't
a
last
good
long.
thing. Oh,
Yeah.
and I love it when Don rears up the front end of his car. It becomes
That
a
was
trademark.
fucking badass.
Oh,
It
badass.
becomes a trademark throughout the franchise. It's
Oh,
like
yeah,
his thing
they
that he
sizzle
does.
reeled the shit out of that too after this one, like where that should just showed up in random sizzle reels for whatever the production company was. I forget, but
But you know, when they filmed that,
You know what's
scene-
really awesome though is when you actually see it in person when somebody does that.
oh, I bet.
I bet
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
What was that, KJ?
No, when they filmed that scene, both those cars when they were filming it, they weren't together. Like they shot that individually, each car driving down towards that train, and they spliced it together. And
Oh, hell yeah.
They did a good job with that
Yeah.
shit.
King Kong did. That's like an
Yeah.
old school film technique there, where they superimpose it over each other. That's great to know. I wouldn't have assumed that. I would think that your favorite scene, Dave, would be the alternate ending, where somebody shows up from the future to tell Paul Walker he's got to go back to the past and drag race against an android, a murderous android, to save his mother.
I think I also liked Michelle Rodriguez's race against the dude because he was just so goddamn cocky, and when she creamed his ass, I was like, yes.
Hey, baby, I'll race you for that sweet ass of yours. Hey, you want ass? Hit Hollywood Boulevard.
I guess put your money where your mouth is.
For real.
Such a treat, dude. It's a shame that we didn't get her in a lot more genre movies, but she did do shit like Machete later and stuff like that. So that's
she also was in Avatar.
true enough, which definitely would count as a genre film. I'd have liked to have seen her in more horror films. I think it would have been cool to see
Resident
her.
Evil, she was badass in Resident Evil movies.
Or in like some modern like reboot of People Under the Stairs or something like that. I think she would fit in really good with that. You know, there's lots that could have been done with her in like horror or sci-fi.
She has that vibe.
She's got that, like she would fit in one of those, not just because she's, you know, what is she, like Puerto Rican or I'm not sure what, but it's just she feels like she carries that kind of classic like tough sort of urban chick vibe
Tomboy.
that I would love to cast that in movies all day. I'd have probably put her in several
Tomboy
films.
that when she puts on a dress, you'd like to take it off her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Very fast too. Shit. Yes, sir.
Yeah, she definitely is good looking, but she definitely plays a
She aged
badass
well.
chick in a lot of movies.
Well.
Oh yeah,
She did. She really did.
But in any case,
What Boris? You don't get into all the guys talk about the girls. You don't say nothing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What did you say?
I said you don't. How come you don't get into this with the guys talking about all the girls?
Good question. I guess they said everything I would have said. So
My man just
He
take
has
it.
too much respect for Tammy to say anything, right?
among other things.
hey, there's some things the guy keeps to himself. You know, I mean,
What's that?
sometimes it's
Yeah.
I'd
more
like
the
to give her. I'd like to
imagination.
give her everything I got. So I don't know.
Want to throw the kitchen sink at me, eh?
Oh, she'd take you to the clinic, Krol. But in any case, I think that has pretty much rounded out our discussion on the Fast and the Furious. So, is there anything else that anyone else wants to say about the film?
I think as tempting as it is to make fun of the franchise these days, like you would anything that has a bunch of sort of redundant sequels after a certain point and has become the source of memes. The first one is definitely one that I think everybody should at least see that one at some point. You know? If not because you're a fan of cars and stuff, then just as a relic of early 2000s like blockbuster cinema. I'd put this right up there with like
And
you
hey,
know,
if you,
the
and
Matrix
if you will,
or any of that
the great
stuff from like
acting.
99 to 2001 in there.
for
where,
the
like,
great acting, I mean, the
True enough.
acting is really top notch.
2000s movie. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
have like that late 1999 vibe to it. It's kind of its own thing at this stage.
It really does.
Pretty much, yeah. It really does kind of is
Yeah.
one of those movies that went over and sort of started the
The
vibe of a
decade.
lot of movies we'd see for
Yeah.
a while there, you know.
Yeah.
Even the James Bond movies of like those eras kind of took on a similar slant. A lot of shit felt like this kind of stuff back then, you know. And you could argue maybe that started with like the Matrix and then carried over into the sequels or whatever, obviously later. But it's even if you don't like the film, if you were to put together like an influential movies of the time, like of the first 10 years of the millennium, Fast and Furious.
It definitely is a
You have to be
influential
on
movie.
there. Yeah, it has to be on there.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I would definitely check out the film if you have not already. Hopefully, you enjoyed our discussion on the film, and hopefully, we don't
Spoiler.
see you ride or dying anytime soon.
Hey, Ride or Die is on the state
Yeah.
license plate from New Hampshire. Always been there. So that is nothing new. That isn't anything Fast and Furious fraud because that's been there forever.
That's
For
fucking
parents
wild,
out
dude.
there, you don't have to worry about it if your kids see this movie. There's nothing bad in it. Trust me.
Really
Unfortunately.
But I
Yeah.
wouldn't try any of this stuff
You do not
at
get to see
home.
Mia's tits, but you know.
I mean,
got our
as much as
imagination.
we'd like to see it, I mean, I wish there was an unrated version of this movie, but unfortunately, there isn't.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, say goodnight.
Say goodnight.
Good night.
Don't leave us hanging, Krol. Show
Good
us some
night.
tits.
What?